It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's the Jill on Money Show. Hey, how you doing? How's your weekend so far? This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. I'm Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst and a certified financial planner. And the guy running the program behind the scenes is Mark Talercio, the executive producer. He is also a certified financial planner. Hey, what we're trying to do is help you make better financial decisions. And we do that by asking you to go to our website, jillonmoney.com, click the contact button, ask a question. And if you're willing to come on the air, let us know. That's what Tammy did. She's on the line from Oklahoma.
Okay, so my husband and I are headed into retirement. We've chosen June 30th as our exit date. And as we were working the numbers, of course, one of the things was to build the income plan, how to draw from our buckets and make it all work out. And so I feel like an annuity would best match us, most likely like a single premium immediate annuity. But, when we started back in January, our net worth was much higher. And it's very cringeworthy right now. But I still think we should do it. But I'm like, okay, so the idea is not to draw until January at the earliest, and we may not even need to in January. Part of the reason is just to make sure we don't have to just always be checking what the market is doing and keep that base going.
Right. So you're feeling a little anxious, but you still not so anxious that it's going to derail you from retirement this year, right?
Correct.
Okay. How old are you, Tammy?
I am 63. I'll turn 64 late this year.
Okay. And your husband?
He's 2 years older. He's
okay.
60. He will turn 66 this year.
Okay. How much do you guys earn together?
Together, our gross is about $150,000.
Are you contributing to retirement accounts right now?
Yes. I contribute to a 401k from my work, about 10%. I was doing 20%, but then I backed off this year. And then at the same time, I've been contributing to a Roth. And then my husband doesn't have a workplace one, and so we just max out an IRA for him.
A traditional IRA?
Just a traditional, yes.
How much money is in his IRA right now?
His is sitting at like $400,000.
Okay. And how much money is in your pre-tax 401k?
My pre-tax is $350 for my workplace one. Mm-hmm. And then my Roth is sitting at $90. And then I have a rollover from previous employers that's sitting at $450.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So all told, we have about 1.2, 1.3, depending on what day of the week you look.
Don't look so hard. Okay. So what about non-retirement? So we talked about rollover and traditional and Roth. Any brokerage accounts?
No brokerage accounts.
Okay. Savings, just an emergency reserve fund?
Yes. Tons of cash stuffed in all places under the mattress.
Okay. How much about?
So about $200,000.
Great. Do you own your home?
We have a mortgage.
You own it with the bank. How much is the house worth?
The house is worth about $450.
And what remains on your mortgage?
About $220, $225.
What's the rate on that mortgage, Tammy?
The mortgage rate is like 2.2%.
Oh, my God. 15 or 30?
30. Yeah.
Wow. Holy smokes. That's something else, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you retire this year, tell us about full retirement age Social Security. What are the numbers?
Okay. So for my husband who would draw next year, so his full retirement is like $2,200 a month.
And what's your full retirement?
And then my full retirement would be in July of 2025. And we're looking at like $3,150 in today's dollars.
His full retirement age is 67 or 66 and change?
66 and however many months, yes.
Okay. So that's definitely coming in next year, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and yours will be in a few years, in 2025, as you said.
Yeah.
And what do you figure? I mean, I know you got this nice, cheap mortgage. What do you think you need to live on?
So basic, just like paying the bills and paying the car payments and all of that. We need about $7,000 monthly.
You just said car payments. Can you give me that as also like what do you have auto loans and
Yeah, we have two car payments that'll be paid off in about 2 years. I mean, about the same time that my Social Security would kick in, and they're a total of like 900 a piece. I mean, total.
look at you with your big fancy cars.
Yeah.
$900 a month. What is some big truck that you need in Oklahoma? You just
Well,
gotta drill.
an
You gotta
SUV,
drill.
and
You
actually
gotta
an SUV. So yeah,
and you gotta drill oil on the side, so you have to be able to do that. That's what everyone in Oklahoma does. So it says
that's
you have
what
to
we do. Yeah.
you haul stuff down to Auntie M's, little shelter. Okay, good.
Yes.
Is this an absolute like? Do you hate what you do? You got to tell me the truth.
Just like everybody else, we've got to the end of the road. I mean, I don't just absolutely hate it, but I work 2 weekends a month, every month, plus the weekdays. And, so that's the thing is I work a lot of weekends. It gets to where it's hard to be spontaneous. Like this past couple of weeks ago, my husband was like, hey, there's this concert Saturday night. Do you want to go? And I'm like, no, got to work. And we like to go outdoors, go camping, that sort of thing. And, we're just like, we'd like to do more of that. And then my mom lives a couple of hours away, and she's widow, need to get up there to help her. So that's kind of where we're at.
Do you think you'll have to help support mom? I mean, how old is she?
She's 83 and very likely, yes. I mean, she's independent and does very well right now, but I think there'll be the time when she might have to move in. Yes.
Okay. But you have a house that can accommodate. This is a new house, so I presume you
Yes.
can accommodate. So she may have to move in. Okay.
Yes.
And you have siblings around?
Yes, I have a sister who lives nearby.
Good. You like her? She's all right?
She's all right. You know how it goes with sisters.
I mean, I love my sister, but I know that everybody has the exact same kind of relationship. So you're the one who's. So this is great because I'm going to encourage you to do one thing about if mom does move in. I think that you're going to have some real conversations with your sister. Like, hey, I'm going to have mom move in. There's certain things I'm going to have to do in my house. Like, we're going to sell mom's house, and like, you're going to have to get some money to support her, to support mom, right?
Yes.
And I want you to be able to have that conversation before the time actually comes with your mother and your sister. And it's a tough conversation. That's why I want to prep you for that right now. Your mom owns her house?
Yes.
What do you think that's worth?
It's a really small rural home, so that's probably only worth like $50,000.
Okay. And does she collect Social Security? Is that what she lives on?
Yes.
So she would have Social Security. You'd sell the house. There's probably some small bank account. But essentially, there has to be some agreement between you and your sister like, hey, you know what? Mom's Social Security check is going to be used for us to support mom. Like, it's not like your sister gets a piece of that. Okay. So I just want there to be like at least a conversation that when you do this, that you guys are prepared to do it. And you should talk to your mom about it also. Like, you feel good about this, mom? We love you, blah, 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 just to have a game plan. And it could change, but it's worth having that conversation. We'll get back to our conversation with Tammy in just a moment. You're listening to Jill on Money.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are continuing our conversation with Tammy, and let's get right back into it. All right. So now, would you guys be willing to do any are you a nurse? Is that why you work weekends?
I'm in IT.
Okay. So is there any way that you would be able to work part-time? Like, if you retired, would your company maybe hire you back for a couple days a week, but only weekdays? Like, would they be willing to do something like that or not?
I don't know. It's possible because that was the first thought. And they have other people done that on an hourly basis. I don't know if they could make it work to where I wouldn't work weekends, but I would be open to that because I'm sure I would make a lot more money on an hourly
Yeah.
basis. Yeah.
I mean, look, you guys are in very good shape because you're going to have, eventually $5,350 coming in from Social Security, right? And, that's a good chunk of your need. You will need to create some more income because we know that to pay your bills, as you said, it's $7,000 a month. And that's the net number. So, we know that we are going to have to pull, let's say, $3,000, maybe $4,000 a month from your total asset base. And if that's the case, what happens is, we could probably make it work on the pre-tax dollars, but it's close. I mean, it's not a slam dunk. Do you guys have kids that are grown and on their own and okay?
Yes, we have two adult sons, and they're both grown and doing okay, have great careers and don't need our help.
Good. Thank
Yeah.
God.
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, a few things that come to mind. One is that what are we doing in terms of, if you think about retirement, for you, what are you going to do? Go on Cobra for this year and a half before you turn 65?
Yes.
I think you can probably do it. Would it work a lot better if I knew that for the next year, 2 years, you could have a little bit of income flowing in until you collect Social Security? I just feel like you are close. Look, $1.2 million, if you just think about it, it's $1.2 million, but it's pre-tax, right? So I got to pay tax, meaning you got to pay tax. Whether it's in an annuity or not. And I'll get to the annuity question. And, 1.2 million at a 3% withdrawal rate, meaning you pull out 3% a year, and that would hopefully not deplete you. And, and it's not a perfect metric, but it's not bad. So that would give me that $3,000 a month, but it's pre-tax. That's kind of close for you guys because however long before you collect Social Security, we know that we're going to spend some of that cash down because that's how you're going to float your in-between period. But once you collect Social Security, you could get this, you're going to have Social Security of $5,350. You're going to have $3,000 a month from pulling out of your pre-tax accounts. That's like your $8,000-ish. You pay your taxes and you have $7,000. Then you have your $7,000 net. It's okay. It just, for me, I think that you probably can do this with like a 70%, 75% probability that it works fine. But it's not like a 95% probability. So I just want to put that out there. And the way that you build up the probability of success is you work a little longer. And it doesn't mean you have to work full time, but gosh, if it were possible for you to do something part-time in IT, whether at your firm or somewhere else, where you knew that you were taking in, instead of making, how much do you make right now full time?
115.
Like if you knew, honestly, you could make 50 or 60 grand, that would be the help that I need. That's it. I don't need much more. And it's not for that long, just a few years. And I don't think the annuity actually helps you in many respects because the annuity, what happens in the annuity, either you take the cash and you pop it into an annuity and it starts creating a flow of income, which is okay, but I really want you to have access to your money, or you're taking money out of your retirement assets. You're taking it out now, which is, we are at a point where we had a big pullback in the markets, but forgetting about that, you're pulling money out, the clock starts ticking, and boom, you're going to start receiving income that's taxable to you. And I don't know, it's not a fabulous vehicle for you guys at this moment. I almost feel like in a couple of years, it might be worth it to do that. It might be worth it to give you peace of mind. But the greatest peace of mind that I could give you right now is to say, if you could work and make, half of what you're making now and do that for a few years and maybe let the old man retire, whatever, if he's not happy doing what he's doing, but he's going to have that pension. I mean, that Social Security. Yeah, he's going to have that Social Security. And that's not a bad thing. It's like that's the income he has. If you could get on board with that and work for a couple of years part-time, let's see how the economy rolls. I'm slightly worried about this game plan in the same way that I get worried about when kids graduate into a recession. And I'm like, well, it's not an ideal time, but you don't have a choice. With retirement, you usually have a choice. And if things are slowing down or if the world is going into a period where there's going to be slower growth, I just would prefer you keep working and having some money and let your money continue to grow.
Now, one thing we did forget to talk about was a pension that I do have from a previous employer.
I am falling in love with your previous employer right now.
For the first 20 years of my life, my working life, I was a government employee. And I'm already drawing on that. And that's what's like paying the car payments and all the other frivolous things. And
Okay.
so, yeah, it's like $1,500 a month.
So
But
then
it's still not, yeah.
it's still not perfect, but look, if something horrible happened with your mom and you had to stop working on a dime and you're moving her into your house and you just needed to do that, we could make this work. I might say like, look, don't spend $7,000 a month, try to spend $6,000 a month. Like it will probably work. Don't buy an annuity because I don't want you to tie the money up right now. If you can work for like another year and a half, even just to get you to Medicare, not even have to pay for the COBRA in this time, something that would be really helpful is that with that $1,500 a month that's paying off your car payments, maybe it's even just that. Think about it this way, Tammy. You said I've got an auto loan in 2 more years, $900 a month, it's gone. Like if that's gone in 2 years, and I have $1,500 a month, and then I freed up $900 a month in expenses, like all of that starts to work a lot better. It's like a year and a half or 2 years of work. And even if it's just some part-time work, it would work better. So that would be my hope that I can leave you with it is that I think you're like pretty close and you probably can do it. It's just not a slam dunk right now.
Understood.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And that's why I was kind of, that's what I say. You work the numbers and you work the numbers. And you're like, it looks close. But
yeah.
I understand.
And it's also like, look, you may have a different perspective on risk. Mark and I are very wimpy. And I will freely admit that to anyone who comes on the line with us. Like, I don't feel comfortable saying like, yeah, that's fine when it's not 100%. So I don't even need 100%. I want it to be more than 90%. And again, we increase the odds with work. That's the way that we increase the odds. And, it sucks to work weekends. Believe me, I know that. But if there's a way to kind of negotiate this with the boss, especially with someone who's like, hey, it's a tight labor market, IT, I know my stuff. Like, how about if we do this? See if there's any appetite for that. And that's also another option for you. Okay.
Yes. Okay.
All right. What else do I have to know? Did you do your estate planning?
No, that's, yeah.
Oh my God, Tammy.
I know.
Do you have that as a benefit at work? Is there any like legal expense in your benefit package?
There is not. That would be a nice little perk for them to
have. That's something you talk to your boss about. That's actually a cheap thing to get as a benefit. I mean, you are in IT, so you're very facile with the thing called the interwebs, right? What I would suspect is that if you just went to Policy Genius, which is like the big insurance aggregator, they also have a module for estate planning. And even if you just did that as just like a holdover, if you don't want to go to the lawyer and spend the big money, it's okay. Like I would do that. Absolutely. And, mostly because you're in your 60s, things happen. We just went through COVID. Like bad things can happen out of the blue. And we just want you to have the documents ready to go. Okay. All right. Any old life insurance or anything like that kicking around?
Yes, we do. We have some small policies that, we picked up way back in our early days of our marriage and right now the dividends off of it's paying the premium. So we don't really even pay on the premium.
That's fine. Okay. If you, like Tammy, need a little bit of guidance about retirement, why don't you give us a shout? Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button. We will be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And when you're on our website, if you're on the JillOnMoney.com website, I know I always tout the beautiful Contact Us button, but we've got so much content that resides on this website. We have not just a beautiful resources section, but we have a little section devoted to our 2 podcasts. We've got the blog, we've got videos, my television appearances, all that is there. When you get onto that website, don't forget, to sign up for the free weekly newsletter. Comes out every Friday. Mark does a great job with that. And I think you'd like that as we head into the weekend. It's like a good tune-up for the program. So check it out, JillOnMoney.com, the free weekly newsletter. Right now, let's go to a listener from Canada. It's Joe, who's got a retirement question. You were very clear. You're like, I'm American. You're an American living in Canada, which is always interesting to me. So how long have you been in Canada?
We've been here about 4 years now.
What made you move there?
Beth and I, my spouse Beth, we were international teachers. We taught at international schools all over the world. And I got my permanent residency in Canada about 10, 11 years ago. And we went back out overseas and just came back 4 years ago because Beth has no paperwork in the U.S. And we also don't have any healthcare coverage in the U.S.
I was going to say, I have to feel like a little bit like when people say they end up in Canada, I'm like, it's a healthcare thing. But maybe not. It's also that it's a nice place to live, I presume.
Yes.
So what's going on and how can we help you out?
So my question today is about, so as I said, my spouse Beth and I, she's 50, I'm 49, she's a Canadian, I'm an American. We are hoping to be retiring in the next year or two.
What?
That's our goal. That's our goal. We had a financial advisor write up a plan for us here in Canada, and she said that that would work, hopefully. But like I said, we taught internationally for most of our career, so we have no pension, and we will have relatively little to none Social Security or old age pension here in Canada. So we're used to saving. We've saved for our retirement, having been international teachers. And my question comes down to this. We're used to saving. We've been doing dollar cost averaging each week about $1,000 a week. But about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the way the markets have been so volatile and we're less than 5 years from retirement, I thought to myself, I wonder if it's smarter to try and save 2 to 3 years worth of living expenses. So if we are really able to retire in a year or two, we would have that ready to go. But my concern is, A, with inflation, B, should we just put it in a bank account? But we don't have I bonds here because that would be what I would do. But they have like what's called the GIC, which is similar to CDs in the US for 2 to 3%. And so I really would love your advice on, should we keep dollar cost averaging with the volatility of the markets, or should we do my plan of just try to save 2 to 3 years worth of living expenses?
Let's talk about what you've done so far. So tell us about the savings and investing that you have on hand at this point.
Okay, so we have, in the U.S., I have a Roth IRA that's worth almost over about $150,000. And here in Canada, Beth has what's called the TFSA, which is their version of a Roth IRA that has about $60,000. And then the rest, which is our total is around $725,000, is in taxable investments. We own our home outright. We had to actually pay for it in cash because we couldn't get a mortgage when we came back.
So 150 in your Roth, 60 in her Canadian version of a Roth, 725 in a taxable, house is owned outright.
Yeah.
And what about your needs? Like, what do you think you need to spend in, again, if you're going to retire in a year and you're 50, we have to see if this money can last you 40 years.
That's right. Exactly. So our spending is about $3,000 to $3,500 a month. And what our financial planner had said to us was we would not until we were like 70, I think, do a reversible mortgage. So, yeah, because we live in downtown Toronto in a condo that's already appreciated quite a lot. I'd say we bought it at $700,000 and it's at $900,000, and that was just 2.5 years ago.
Wow. And how much do you have in just regular savings account? Because we talked about retirement savings and the taxable account. Do you have like a bank account?
Yes, we have there about $35,000, and I also have in a high interest savings another $35,000.
Okay, so you're thinking right now is you would like to have this, let's call it $3,500 a month. You're like, okay, wait, let me at least have that 40 grand or so a year that you need. And you essentially would like to be able to have at least 2 years, let's say that, like 80 grand that you can draw on so that you wouldn't have to pull money out of your investment accounts. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. So that like if in maybe a year or two when we retired, we would have something to my real hope was 80, 90,000 saved.
Yeah, that's what I think. That makes sense. So I agree with that. I think that would be smart. I am somewhat concerned about this game plan. I'm going to say that right now. And not like crazy. I mean, you're teachers, you know how to get a job, right?
Yes.
So I'm wondering, because you're so young, is it possible that you guys could somehow do, like, let's say you downshift and you say, all right, we don't want to do what we were doing. We don't want to work as hard. Is it conceivable that each of you could work part-time-ish or get a little money or do whatever you think you could, like, is that on the table?
Absolutely. It really is. I think the thing is that, to be perfectly frank, my spouse more than I are really struggling with the behaviors in class. Like it's become somewhat unmanageable at times. It's really quite been crazy. So she's even though she's 50, she's been seriously looking at trying to change careers to do something else because she actually does want to continue to work, but just not in what we're doing now.
We'll get back to our conversation with Joe in just a second. Do you have a question about retirement? Maybe it's about education. Maybe it's about a new job. Whatever is on your mind, we'd love to hear from you. Just go to JillOnMoney.com and click the Contact Us button. Then a form will pop up. You complete it. Don't forget to let us know if you would like to join us on the air live. We'll be right back.
.401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we get back to our conversation with Joe, I want to tell you that we have two other broadcasts, audio broadcasts. They're both podcasts. One is called Jill on Money, and the other one is called I on Money. Now, if you've never done the whole podcast thing, it's kind of fabulous. It's basically like listening to radio on demand. So if you want to know how to do that, just go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, and we have a link so that you can subscribe to both of those shows. Kind of a similar flavor to what we do here, but in shorter segments. And again, whenever you want it. And if you've missed any of these shows, we also have a link to where you can find and listen to those older programs. Okay, so let's get back to talk to Joe from Canada. We are talking about retirement. Here's what I think. I don't think that you could just call it quits and never work again. I don't know, Mark, if you think that, but I do think that if you were, if for some reason, like let's just say that you guys both said, right, how much do you earn together right now?
After taxes are high in Canada, but after taxes, what we end up netting is about $10,000 a month.
If you could simply choose a career in a year or two, let's just, you build up your nice bank account where you're just covering your expenses. Like if you're telling me $3,500 a month is not that big a deal. So if you guys each were making, the equivalent of $35,000 a year, 70 grand, and you pay your taxes and then you support yourselves and you're not forced to draw money from these accounts, I think you're in great shape. But I think that trying to finance a 40-year retirement, even if I look at that beautiful reverse mortgage idea, I don't think you have enough money just yet. But I do think that you're in this really interesting place where you could conceivably say, hey, you know what? We can get a job. We can do this. We can do that. So what I would encourage you to do is to start, for fun also, is to look around and see if there's something that you could be doing. And it doesn't mean if you or she found something fantastic right now, just an interesting opportunity. Like, hey, weirdly, they need someone to help with, continuing ed at a big financial institution. Or, gosh, I know how to talk to people. I can be a sales rep, or I can do this, or I can do that, whatever it is. I'd start looking. If you can just cover your expenses, that's a big, big help, because otherwise I am concerned that we run out of money.
Yeah, I am too.
So I mean, it's so weird. Like you feel like, I have almost $1 million. That's a lot of money, right? It is, but it's not as much if you have to pull the money out. And so I'm sure that the back of the envelope calculation, or even the more intense calculation from the advisor, is like, okay, we can pull this money out. You can live on this money and we won't run out, but we won't have enough money. We're going to have to dig into your principal when you're 70. And then we got to do the house thing. There are a lot of variables in this. And I'm just not as comfortable saying everything is free and clear. I think if you can find a way to support yourselves for the next 10 years or so and just pay those bills and let that money accumulate, you're in a much better position, and you should feel more confident about making those decisions going forward.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. We've always been savers. We've never had debt. We have no car payments. We have no credit card, So I agree, like we're in a good position, but I do agree with you. I always say to Beth, I'm a little nervous. I know she's a professional financial planner, but it did make me nervous a bit.
I think when you know that you're nervous, it's usually a good warning sign. Like I said, this could work out fine. My concern is that for you to feel comfortable making this decision, it should be a better probability of success than what I think you have. Because even if it were, honestly, if you said 90% of the time it'll work, 10% is a lot. And I think it's easier to make a transition today when you're 50 years old than going out futzing around 10 years from now being like, oh crap, we both need to work. I mean, I'd rather you guys make a transition today and figure out what's next. And if you feel comfortable working as you're working, maybe you don't, I don't know. But like, if you have to, somehow make a different decision, you give yourselves an opportunity in the future. I think that today making this decision feels like, obviously it's a moment in time. I hope it changes. But, at the very least, to give her some comfort, like say, hey, babe, I love this idea. I think we should do it. But I think you should we are workers. And like, let's think about how to get you out of this nasty situation and get you to a better place so you feel good about working, because you are really young. Both of you.
Yeah, yes, I agree. So you do think, Jill, then that we should save for a couple years worth of, and so stop investing for now.
I mean, look, I think that if you could you split the difference? Could we say you're saving 50 grand in a year? Can you take half of that and put it in savings and the other half in investing? That would be good.
Yeah, I think that's a smart idea too. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
So I think that that's good. I want to make sure that you guys have all of your estate documents. I don't know what the situation like Canadian law is, but just make sure you've got everything set up, and then start doing phase 2. Like phase 1 is work our butts off. Phase 2 is work hard, but have more fun working.
I like that. Yeah.
All right. So phase 2, let's have more fun working. And then phase 3 is like, okay, we'll call it quits. But if you have more fun working, you may not want to call it quits so quickly.
Exactly. That's our hope. That's the plan. I agree with you.
Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing your story. Let's go get phase 2, have more fun at work careers, and let us know how it goes. Okay, I don't like to be a dream crusher, but if you want to run a situation by us, we've got to give you our unbiased advice. So if you've got a financial question, let us know. Go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we would be happy to help you out. Jill on Money. That's the radio show that you're listening to. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we conclude the hour, we always like to squeeze in a little extra email. This is from Susan, who writes, I have IRA accounts managed by Edelman Finance, but I have too much cash that after a few years, my advisor just now recommended setting up an investment account. He would use exchange-traded funds managed like my other accounts. I'm wondering if it makes more sense since it's taxable. Would it be better to just set up an investment account at Vanguard or at even Ally Bank if they have index fund options? I max out my 401k through work. I'm 61 and I plan on working until I turn 70 or more. I own my own condo in the Seattle area. Why don't you want Edelman to keep managing this? Do you feel like they're not doing a good job because they have your other money? And I'm wondering if that makes sense to kind of keep it all in one house. I guess the critical question is, do you feel like you want to manage your own money at this point? And maybe some pot of money would be fine for you to manage, but maybe it's more than you feel like you want to get involved with. A lot of this is about your personal preference. So I'm not going to just tell you to go bail on it. I wonder why you chose to have someone else manage your financial life in the first place. If you now have a doubt about whether or not you want to do that in the future, why would you leave any of the money there? In essence, I guess what I'm asking you is, do you want to keep doing this with Edelman or do you want to do it yourself? Because frankly, if you're just going to be investing money, certainly you could do that yourself, but there probably was some reason that you wanted someone else to do this in the first place. So let's find out whether or not those same conditions exist or maybe things have shifted. I'm happy to talk you through this. Certainly there are plenty of places where you could have low-cost index funds and not pay any fees to do that, but that's something that's up to you. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. When we return, more of your awesome questions. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of the Jill on Money show, and we are here trying to answer your financial questions, but also to maybe help you prioritize what's going on in your financial life. Often we are hearing from folks who are considering big life decisions. Should I retire? Should I fund my kids' college education? Should I think about one job versus another job? Is it important for me to convert my traditional retirement account into a Roth account? All of these things are really big questions, but they bring up a lot of other things in your lives that maybe you are not considering. And that's why we love to have you guys come on the air with us, because often when you do come on the air, we can scratch beneath the surface of what you present to us and maybe shed light on other things that you did not consider. And sometimes those are just conversations that are really organic. We're talking about one thing and then we make a turn to something else. We're talking about a question around, say, retirement, but then we find out that you don't really want to retire. It's just that you're completely fried in your current career and you'd like to downshift into something that doesn't require so much of your energy, whether your emotional energy, your actual time. Let us help you make better financial decisions. The way you can do that is you can go onto our website, jillonmoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and fill out the form. And at the bottom of the form, it says, would you be willing to come on the air live with us? If you click that box, Mark will do everything else. So let's go and talk to Ryan. He is from Wisconsin. Hello, Ryan. Welcome to the program. What can we do for you today?
Well, I have a question. I've been saving up for retirement quite a bit. My wife and I are in our mid-30s, but I'm coming to the point of trying to figure out that balance of saving up for retirement, but also saving for our children's college funds. And I'm hoping you guys can give us a little guidance on kind of that delicate balance, because I want to be able to retire it someday, but I'd also like to support our children as much as we can for their college.
How old are your kids?
We have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and another one on the way. So lots of college.
Oh my God. So when we look forward and you think about college, are you thinking, hey, I've got 4 kids, public college, or are you thinking private? What's on your mind with this?
I'm certainly hoping public.
Yeah, praying more like. Okay, so let's think about public. Okay. Have you started doing anything for them? Do you have a 529 plan for any of them?
I do. I have 529s for all 3 that are here, not just obviously for the one on the way because we don't have a social security number yet, but I do have 529s for the 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and 2-year-old.
How much money in there? Total.
Our 6-year-old currently has about $63,000 in his. Our 4-year-old has about $29,000 in his, and our 2-year-old is at about $15,000.
Okay, so you guys both work, or one of you home with the kids?
We both work.
How much do you earn together?
Our range of income it's kind of a wide range just based on bonuses and things like that, but it's anywhere from probably $350,000 to about $500 to $550.
Wait a minute. Why is it so, like, what can I count on? What am I really looking at here? What should I say? Like, for sure, you're going to make like 400 grand a year. Like, what's the number?
For sure, you could count on 400 grand a year.
Okay. That's a lot of money in Wisconsin, no? I hate to be all New Yorky on you, but that seems like a lot of money. You're living in a lower cost of living area, right?
Yes. Yeah. And I would say it's a lot of money. We live very comfortably.
Yeah, Ryan and his wife, they're like, oh, the rich people with 3 kids, one on the way. Okay, so how much money have you saved for retirement so far in your mid-30s?
Well, right now we have in our 401ks, we have about $570,000. Our Roth IRAs, we have about $200,000. Then this year, we've started to save a brokerage account. So that's up to about $80,000 right now.
Do you have an emergency reserve fund as well?
Yeah, we have about $55,000 in cash. I also have, when the I-bonds came out with really good returns of about 7% last year, we do have now about $40,000 in I-bonds, although we can't access them for the emergency return until the end of this year. My goal is to maybe, depending on what the return is on those, to eventually have those as part of my emergency fund as well.
Tell us about your house. How much would you say your house is worth?
Our house is probably worth just a little over $1 million, and our mortgage on the house is about $460,000.
Boy, $1 million house in Wisconsin. I'd love to see this house.
I know. What does $1 million in Wisconsin buy you? Let's kind of give us a little jealousy moment here, because I feel like it's going to be some monster. So what is it?
Well, it's not necessarily the square footage, is the location. We're located on a beautiful lake out here in Wisconsin, and that the limited property that you can have on the lake is what really brings up the value. And also, the current market has brought up the value quite a bit because there's almost no homes available around us that are on the lake. So that's where it's at.
I see. Okay, what's the mortgage rate?
2.625.
Oh my God! And it's a 30.
Yep.
Are you guys contributing to regular, traditional 401ks right now, or are you using Roth versions?
Traditional 401k at this point.
Okay.
We're both maxing out our 401ks. And what we've been doing is the traditional, just because I believe at this point our marginal tax rate will be higher now than what it will be in retirement. But I know you guys do love Roth 401ks, so you could persuade me the other way.
How about life insurance?
Yes, we do have life insurance. I knew I wanted to make sure that was definitely in place before we came on the show. But I have a 30-year million plan, a 20-year million plan, and my wife has another 30-year million plan.
Do you have like sort of a split of income, or is it more tilted? Are you more earning more than your wife at this point?
Yeah, it's more tilted toward me, which is why we tilted the life insurance the way we did.
All right. She probably could use a little bit more because, my theory is that even if the one who doesn't make as much happens to pass away, unfortunately, it's just like there's the care issue. And that's 4 kids is a lot. And so she might need a little bit more. Can she buy some more through work?
She can. Yeah, we should. I can look at that. This current one is outside of work, so we could up it with her work plan.
Yeah, maybe do that. Let's at least take a look at it. How about the estate documents? Are those in place?
Yes, they are. We'll probably update them again once the new baby comes, but then I think four is probably the limit. I don't think we'll be adding any more 529 plans on here eventually. So I think once the new baby comes, we'll update and have our estate documents finalized.
So what else do you think that we need to know about before we start thinking how to allocate money between retirement and college? Any other issues that are cropping up?
No other real issues. We just did kind of our renovation on the house. So most of the money that we have for any others, like other projects or anything like that on the side is already been taken care of. So it's more just getting now that we've done that and have kind of our dream home, which we've saved up for in the past, to the state of, okay, now when we have extra money, how do we want to basically stock it away and figure out everything for college?
We'll get back to our conversation with Ryan in just a minute. You see what I was talking about? Priorities, trying to balance retirement and saving for college. All these things come up. If we can help Ryan out, we can help you out. Just go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and we will get in touch with you, okay? We will be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and this is the program that tries to take the mystery out of your financial life. We do that by answering financial questions, but hopefully you realize that this is a show where money is not scary and it's not boring. It's about you, and your questions make it all possible for me and for Mark to provide really unconventional and hopefully entertaining insights on your money and your life. Mark and I kind of consider ourselves your financial coaches. You know, we want to bring some common sense to your life, but we also want to kind of nudge you along the way to make better financial decisions, or maybe the next best financial decision. Sometimes it doesn't even have to be so great. It just has to be what's next. What's the next step for you that makes sense for you, for your family, for your household? And sometimes the way we can do that best is to bring you on the air with us live, because we can ask lots of follow-up questions and kind of find out where you're going next. See, it's just like that. It really does make sense. So right now, we are continuing with Ryan. If you missed the first part of this hour, he is in his 30s, and he's trying to balance retirement and saving for college down the road. So it's interesting at this point, when you look at the cash flow, you both max out your 401ks. And then do you put a certain amount every month away into the 529s or the brokerage, or is that just happening when a bonus comes? Like, how are you managing the cash flow?
That's happening more when a bonus comes. I do look at the 529s. My plan right now for the 529s is about $500 a month, but because of the cash flow being a little bit, it's more based on quarterly bonuses. It's not always done right at the month. I just manually do it myself.
So it's $2,000 a month total. Okay. And then what about the brokerage? Also sort of like whatever's left over, kind of?
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever's left over.
So tell me about the brokerage account, though. Should we use some of that money and just like pop that into the 529 plans? Do you want to get a jump on it, or are you okay kind of going as you're going?
Well, that's kind of my question for you guys on whether I should try to front load a lot of these 529s, and then how much do I front load them versus
that's what I'm thinking.
Just going slowly here, because I'm open to either suggestion. I looked at the estimate for an in-state college in the Wisconsin area. By the time I think our 6-year-old is 18, should be about $250,000 is what my guess is. So I think that's kind of our end goal. But how do I get to that goal is my main question on here.
Here's what I'm thinking. Mark, what do you think about this? I'm thinking that for right now, just because, they're going to have the baby, there's going to be expenses and stuff like that. I'm thinking right now it would be kind of fantastic to take some of that brokerage account money and pop it in the 529 plans because, frankly, the 529 plan is a more efficient way to invest than a brokerage account. I know you have more flexibility with a brokerage account, but you'll have cash flow. I mean, even if you just did 16,000 per kid, that would kind of bring you to like, all right, we're done for this year. Maybe we should do that because it just so happens that 80,000 kind of is like a beautiful, perfect amount that we get to. I'm thinking that you do 16 per kid for this year. And then, the quarterly bonuses you can use to, I think fund in the future, but you can also just have a little bit of extra cash on hand. I think I would rather do it as a lump sum as much as I could. I mean, I don't want to go crazy either, right? So if you're sort of on track to put away $500 a month per kid or $6,000, essentially we're saying like, let's just do the next 2 years in advance. And then let's see where things stand. And you'll keep socking away money for retirement. You're going to be fine for retirement. And then you've got a few years. It's like, all right, I got some money in here. It's working for you. And then we see where you go. I mean, it's just, I think that it's so variable because your income's kind of variable. I would prefer to front load it because, again, the 529 plan is essentially a Roth for college, or not even college, because it's also for high school if you do private high school. But it's a Roth kind of treatment tax-wise. So why not use it for that? And you make a lot of money. You don't live a big, huge life. You got a big house, but it doesn't seem like you have a huge life. You got 4 mouths to feed, or you will have three and some. And so I think that would be kind of my game plan going forward. At what point, Mark, do they kind of stop with the 529 when they have how much in there? Like if they could get in, let's say, I mean, for the 6-year-old, if they had $100,000 in for the 6-year-old in like 3 years from now, they could stop, right?
I still think he has to go beyond age 9 because if he stops at age 9, he's coming in under 200.
All right. So either we have to do one of two things. So we either have to put more in the 6-year-olds to kind of front load it. So now what you're saying to me, Mark, is he needs more like $125 in there, right?
If it's 130, by the time that kid's 18, it'll be about 220.
All right. So I think we shoot for 130 in the 6-year-old's account by the time he's 10 years old. And that's like super doable because it's just, if you did 16 this year and 16, like you'll get there pretty quickly, right? And you'll be able to do that with each of the kids, and any unused money can roll down to the other kids, right? And by the way, you have huge cash flow. So, you will actually be able to help during college also. There's like a really interesting theory, which would be, don't touch any of the 529 money at all, if possible, in the beginning, and just let it keep building without any tax liability. So, you won't have to put as much money in down the line. The money will already be saved, but maybe you say, hey, I'm going to pay for the first semester and then start using it. But I think you're going to be fine. I really do.
And Kyle, FYI, if you wanted to, you could technically open a 529 for the unborn child if you wanted to.
I thought you needed a Social Security number, Mark.
You open it under your name, and when the child's born, you transfer it to the child.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
Mark, you're very smart.
I didn't do that, but I know people that have.
I feel very happy about this. I really do. You're not moving.
It's a better idea for a goal. I like the 130 by 10. It just kind of because the whole thing I like is, I don't like gray area. I'd like to know, hey, it just helps to look at goals and say, where do we want to get to? So that was nice.
Is there anything else that we can do for you before we let you go?
My last question would be, I guess, if you think we should be doing a Roth 401k or if you think I'm doing the right thing with traditional 401k at this point.
Well, he's in 32% now, right? That's his top bracket.
Yeah, you already have almost $1 million. You're saving a lot of money. I don't think you'll be in a lower tax bracket when you retire. That's just me. I would do it.
He's got $600,000 in the 401k, 570. And 200 in the Roth. There's going to be, so, we're just worried about the minimum required distribution that will push you into a higher bracket, right? Because if you keep putting money away pre-tax, by the time you're in your 70s, you are then going to be forced to take that money out. And that could push you into a higher bracket. So if you want to split the difference, you can certainly do so. Especially, I'm sort of wondering, I wonder how your earnings are going to be. I might do it now. I might do the Roth now while you can, because look, you could end up in a higher bracket. You could end up in the 37% bracket, man. You could skip right over 35, and I'll see you at 37, and that's when you earn over 650 grand or so. You're not that far away if you have a couple good years. So might as well do it now while you're in the 32 before you pop into 35 or 37.
That still wouldn't stop me. When you retire, you'll be happy.
I know. He's right. You're right, Mark. But it's at least something to consider, okay? Because I think the 32 is a real thing.
I've read a lot each way, and that's where, I don't know, it makes me always wonder which is the right decision. So splitting it may make me feel more comfortable there.
All right, that's fine. So that's the story. I think we got you all set here, right?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. Thank you guys very much for the information and the help. And I'll definitely follow up with you guys probably in a few years here. I'll let you know what those 529 accounts are at.
Okay, if you, like Ryan, would like to join us and tell us a little bit about your financial story, give us a shout. All you need to do is go to jillonmoney.com. That's the website, which you should be bookmarking. I don't know why you haven't yet. And hit the Contact Us button. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. It comes out every Friday. Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And next up is a perennial question. Let's go to Rick from Minnesota, a question about Social Security.
Hi, Jill. Taking a peek at looking at Social Security in the future, drawing that. I am of age, but should I do it now or should I do it later? Do I optimize and do some soak up my tax bracket between now and required minimum distributions? That'd be both for me and my wife.
Okay, now you get to tell us a little bit more. Rick, how old are you? How old is your wife?
So I'm 66 and a half. My wife is 64. She is retired as in February. And I'm looking at retirement in July of this year.
Tell us about your asset base right now. What do you have saved both in retirement and also non-retirement assets?
That's a good question because we look at our portfolio. I have about 2.6 million and my wife has 2.4. I've been setting that up like that's not retirement or cash available. In those funds, we have a fair amount that's set for cash because I look forward to a withdrawal window. So like over 3 years, I have 4 years. If the market went down, we have that in cash, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, you've got a ton of money. How much do you need to live on?
I'm thinking we should have between 150 and 200 a year. We've been aggressive savers, so we really haven't had a budget, is what I could say.
Are either of you entitled to pensions?
We both get government pensions, and they're turned on. I get about $1,900 a month, and my wife will get the $1,500 a month. And of course, with my current employer, I have two options. I could take a pension or a lump sum. Lump sum would be a little over $3,000, and the pension would be $1,500.
What are you inclined to do?
I like on my current employer pension, I like the idea of taking the lump sum. We could look at it as a cash chunk and then work on taking that out, do a rollover into an IRA, take that out, soaking up my tax bracket every year to get it more in a tax deferred account.
When you said 2.6 and 2.4 million, was that both pre-tax and post-tax money lumped into those, or was that all pre-tax money?
There's probably in that, if you took the two amounts, maybe in the 900 to a million range, that's not taxable. There's growth on it, but it's not taxable per se.
I am inclined to wait. I mean, are you in good health, both of you?
We're both really good health. No diagnosis is on the horizon yet.
Mark, are you not also thinking like, why? Let's wait till age 70 and use this time to convert money from pre-tax into either taxable or even Roth potentially. What do you think, Mark?
100%. Because I mean, that's just going to add to their income. I would start converting. I mean, they're going to have some serious RMDs.
I'm just looking at this. So let's just think about this for 1 second. Right now, I'm going to just do a quickie calculation for you so you have an idea. Let's just do your money, right? Of your 2.6 million, okay, let's just do you for a second. How much is pre-tax? What has not been taxed out of that $2.6 million?
1.8 million.
Okay, so that hasn't been taxed. I want to give you like some of this so you get a sense of this. At your age 72, okay, and again, you're only at 66 and change, right? So
Correct.
in 5 years, we don't touch this 1.8 million. Let's just pretend it turns into 2 million just for the heck of it. Just, even if it doesn't do too well, but it's $2 million. The required minimum distribution for that first year is $130,000.
That's a big number.
And it gets progressively bigger. Okay? So now let's take a deep breath. How do I know that? Because I have the Ed Slott IRA Help Uniform Lifetime Table. Don't you love that chart that I gave you, Mark? It's fabulous. What that means is if we can do this now, and you don't have to, you're not going to get all the money out. You have too much money, which is a good problem. Okay. But the strategy is as follows. You guys are married. You're going to probably retire, this summer, right? But, your income is going to be down right now for 5 years-ish. Okay. The question is, where do we start up to what tax bracket do we start converting? So here's my question to you. How do you feel about converting and I'll ask you and I'll ask Mark. Mark, do you want to go up to the 24% bracket or do you want to stay in the 22% bracket?
No, 24.
Okay, so here's what we got. So everyone listening, don't send hate mail. This is an academic question more than anything else. So here's what we're talking about, just conceptually, because you're thinking about Rick's a rich guy who cares, but this can apply to you as well. There can be a window of opportunity where you can pull money out of your pre-tax accounts before you are forced to start taking money out of your accounts through required minimum distributions. And as you just heard, this is $130,000 that has to be taken out. And by the way, remember that when you're forced to take money out later, it can really screw you up. It can screw you up for Medicare, and that becomes an issue as well. The one thing I will say, Mark, is that if we're going up to the tax bracket of the 24%, up to $340,000, Rick and his wife would have to pay a Medicare surcharge. How are you guys getting health insurance right now?
I'm still on my employer plan, and my wife is using a COBRA to Medicare.
I mean, I think it still makes sense, but I'm just saying that when you're married filing jointly and you have income up to $340,000, you're ending up paying what's called a surcharge for Medicare Parts B and D. And so when you go up to that amount of money, when you have that, so it's essentially so the government's like, look, you make a lot of money, so tough crap, you got to pay more for your Medicare. In your case, it would be about $3,900 more in a year. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I'm just saying it's probably much more important for you to get some of this money out before you're forced to do so. We'll get back to Rick in just a second. It's Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
401ks, IRAs, refinancing, she covers it all. Back to Jill on Money with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are talking to Rick, who called in with a question about Social Security. And of course, you know, when you're talking about Social Security, it tends to bring up a ton of different questions about retirement. I know all these claiming strategies are very confusing, but what I do want you to know is that every single one of these decisions is unique to the situation. So while I'm happy that you're listening and you're engaged, if you want to get the most out of this or have the application to your life, you need to go to our website. That is jillonmoney.com and click the Contact Us button. When you do, a form will appear just like that. And you complete the form. At the end, there's a little box. Check that mark and say, I would be willing to come on the program. And Mark does everything else because he is so awesome. So right now, let's get back to Rick from Minnesota. So the academic pursuit here is, how do we get money out of our retirement plans while we are controlling what tax bracket we are in, rather than the tax bracket is determined at a time later where I can do nothing about it? And that's really what Rick's question is about. Should I delay claiming Social Security so I can get some of the money out of this retirement account, pay the tax that's due, and limit the forced required minimum distributions in the future? And I think that I agree with you, Rick. I think that delaying the claiming of Social Security makes sense. Is there any other financial consideration right now in sort of like the big picture for you guys?
No, I think you're very right on. You know, delaying the Social Security just means a bigger income number later, but getting that money out today, I am a little surprised that the go into the 24% tax bracket, but maybe that's a good thing.
I mean, if you don't want to, here's your downside. Your upside is you just do it to 22% and everything stays the same. Our downside is that if you don't do it up to the 24, that 5 or 6 years from now, if tax rates go up, you could be higher than 24%. That's the risk you take. I'm okay if you don't want to do it. The thing is that if you go up to the 22%, okay, this is for this year, it's $178,150. Well, I mean, it doesn't give you a ton of money coming out. I mean, it'll give you some, but again, you're going to have government pensions of $3,400 a month, right? So that means that you already have $40,000 of income. And that means that you could take out about, let's call it, give or take, about $140,000 from your retirement accounts, which is damn good. It really is. You don't have, or 130,000-ish. And you could just leave it at that and do that for as long as you're in the 22% tax bracket. Just know that the money is accumulating in that retirement account. You know, if you have so years of investments, it won't feel so terrible. But if for some reason the stock market and bond market start to recover and it's 5 or 6 years from now, you might find that you just didn't get enough money out, and then you'll have to pay at a higher rate later.
What do you think about the extension of the RMDs? Probably past 72 to 75, which would give us a larger window.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I mean, yeah. So, gang, we haven't talked about this at all because I didn't want to talk about it before it became law. But there is the Secure Act, which changed required minimum distributions. There has been something passed with amendment. I guess it's an amendment to the original plan, where you would have required minimum distributions stretched out. Instead of starting at 72, it might start at 73, 4 or 5, who knows? It hasn't passed yet, but you're right. That would help you a ton, right? But remember, the thing that's funny for you is that if you delay your Social Security at 70, you're going to now start to have a lot more income. So you will have more income and you'll have time before you need to take the money out, and you could get more money out. But so there's a lot of variables. I think the general question of when do you start claiming? I think you wait till 70. And should you start to pull money out of retirement accounts and pay the tax that's due now? Yes. The other questions are like how aggressively you do that. I'm going to leave it to you. It's really what your comfort level is. There's a lot of different, Ed Slott would say, get the money out as fast as you can, pay your 24%, move on and hope you're wrong. But I get that that's not an easy decision to make.
Agreed.
So, but you're on the right track. I do think that you're absolutely on the right track. And I like the way that you're thinking. How are you investing the money? Are you feeling comfortable? Everything's good?
Yes. I look forward to moving money from our current employer 401k plans, getting them into, one brokerage firm, index funds. We've been in those.
Great.
Just
Perfect.
to have it consolidated in one location is just easy.
Great. Well, listen, I think you're on the right track. Let us know what you decide. I talk about it with the spouse, see what everyone, like where you feel comfortable. I agree with the strategy. I think that you are in fantastic shape, obviously. So congratulations for that. And make sure you got your estate documents. You got those docs done?
We have some wills in place and so on. They're a little old right now and they should be refreshed, of course.
A little refresher for Aunt Jill and Uncle Mark. How about that?
Yes.
Okay, if you would like to join us on the program, all you need to do is go to JillOnMoney.com, click the Contact Us button, and Mark does the rest. Or if you want, we'll sometimes read emails too. Okay, it's Jill on Money, and we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And let's see. Well, you know what? I think we've got some time for an email before we conclude the program. This is a question from Mario who says, where can I purchase Series I savings bond and what is the process? I read that you're required to hold the bonds for a year and the purchase maximum is $10,000 for every calendar year. The rate at 9.62%, it sounds so good. What else do I need to know? Okay, well, Mario, here is what you need to know. First of all, bring your patience when you try to go to the treasurydirect.gov website, because as Mark says, it is a bear to navigate. I know, it's tough. So as you mentioned, there are some limitations. The way that these bonds work is there's two parts. One is that there's a fixed rate, which is essentially zero, and the other is a rate that fluctuates based on the inflation rate. And the rate resets every 6 months. So you're getting 9.62% for bonds that are issued between May and October of this year. Then it will reset to a different rate depending on whatever inflation is. Yes, holding them for at least a year is really advised because otherwise you get whacked with some interest charges. In fact, 5 years is kind of what I think. When you go on to the treasurydirect.gov website, just make sure you click on the I savings bonds and you'll read in about it. You'll get all the information, but it will also then bring you to a link so that you can purchase these bonds. And you're right, only $10,000 per person, electronic bonds per year. I think that these are probably a great place to park some safe money if you're thinking about them. So go check it out. If you have any problems, let us know. Okay, well, that is it. That is the program. Our music here is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talercio is our executive producer. We are always so grateful that you listen to us every single week. We really are. Do try to lift somebody up today. It will make that person feel good. It will make you feel good. All right, Jill on Money. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.